Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Orange County Industrial Development Agency's June 15th, 2021 monthly meeting. Before we get started, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise, please. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Phil, make the roll call for attendance, please.
Yes. Michael Torelli.
Present.
John Dowdett.
Present.
Leslie Pieri.
Present.
Vincent Odock. You're on mute, Doctor. If we could, we have to hear you.
Present.
Present. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I was
5 board members present. 2 remotely.
Perfect.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just tell you, we also have representatives on the line from Crystal Run Healthcare, from HAMS, from St. Luke's Cornwall Hospital, Citibank. I think that's everybody related to the items that are on the agenda.
Great. Thank you. We'll afford them the opportunity to speak when it's time for their projects to become up for discussion. So right on the agenda, we'd like to go up with an update on the IDA subpoena and Orange County the Orange County DA. We'll make that correction to the agenda. Orange County DA subpoena and the Orange County legislative request for information. To our knowledge, at this point, everything that has been asked for has been sent and received, as well as staff has been working when asked to upon this. Any updates on Bill or Langdon, any updates that are above and beyond that we talk in public about?
No, sir, not from us. We've complied with every request for information we've had, both from the DA and in the Orange County Legislature.
Great.
agreed.
Great. And I want to once again thank staff. I know that they've been putting in a lot of time and effort, not only with providing that paperwork, but also with follow-up by the DA and the legislature on any questions, concerns that may be had, and as well as councils, as well as everyone else who has been involved with that. So while we continue to wait for that process to work itself out, we are once again ready, willing, and able to assist and be able to help in any way possible with full transparency in mind in regards to that. I'd like to go into the next agenda item, approval of the minutes from the May 18th, 2021. Anyone have any questions or concerns about the minutes? With that, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So move.
By Paul. Second.
I'll second.
John, second. Roll call, Bill?
Mike Torelli.
Yes.
John Dowdett.
Yes.
Leslie Pieri.
Yes.
Vincent Odock.
Yes.
For me that time. Paul Voskovich.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Great. Next item on the agenda is board calendar. If you noticed, we've changed our agenda up a little bit. We're pushing stuff to the top in relation to our projects, and then we'll go into some of our monthly routines afterwards. This being a meeting at the end of a business day, we want to afford the opportunities for these businesses to complete their day and get on with their business and end their day while we continue to work. So on board calendar, we have set a meeting date of the third Tuesday of every month. This will be the second time we've done that. It's the second time we've utilized this room. We hope to potentially be able to utilize it, continue moving forward with the assistance from our county friends. But if we can't, then we're looking for an alternate arrangement in this building, potentially even maybe the community room downstairs. So to be determined, but we'll try to continue to have them on the premises of the county government center, if at all possible. Also, we've scheduled a committee meeting for next Tuesday for those that can attend. And the committee meeting, at least at this point, will focus on an update by staff about the accelerator and the accelerators and the different aspects of each, and an update with the agenda item to follow possibly on the July board calendar about any decisions that we have to make. We have some very important business to get done that is coming due soon. on that, and we look forward to continuing that process. We'll entertain or potentially even entertain doing another committee meeting that same night. I want to talk about it with everybody and figure out if maybe we can do maybe another one, if we can focus. I know Accelerator has a lot of details, so that's probably going to be the predominant focal point. But I think if we can have maybe 15 minutes set aside for maybe one other type of committee, whether, well, it's not really audit time or I'll say governance time today or at that meeting. Possibly maybe we want to talk about the process of some of the other items that we have on the board calendar, of which is search for a CEO, executive director, those type of things. I'll call it more employment and contracting type stuff. So we can title it however we see fit, but I think a second committee meeting that night should be warranted as well if we're all gonna meet, whether we'll do it both in person and virtual. So for those that can attend, it'd be great, but if not, we can just all join. And like at committee meetings, while a lot of stuff will be discussed and staff will be predominantly leading the meetings, nothing will be voted upon on committee meeting nights or days or whatever we do them. It'll be brought to that next monthly meeting so that we have a time to ingest the information that staff presents to us and then potentially either vote and or discuss about how we want to move forward if a vote is needed at a monthly meeting. Hope that was clear enough, but Bill, you want to add anything in regards to board calendar? Is there an item in here that shows the actual dates, or is there a sheet?
The calendar's on here with the dates for board meetings. And you see from July on, it does say Goshen, because we're aiming to have all these in the county seat, these meetings. But as you mentioned, it's not certain if we can stay here. Meetings are resuming at the government center in person. This legislative statutory committee room is quite busy, and they're not even sure who else is going to be on the calendar. So, but the county is looking to accommodate us with one room or another, including possibly the community room downstairs, which does have restroom facilities. You don't have to go through security. It could work really well.
Okay, that's on page 28 of our packet.
Yeah.
On other boards that I attend, sometimes we vote on this. I think that's something maybe we should vote on. Council, what do you think? Is it something that, I'll say votable?
I would recommend setting a formal schedule by vote, yes.
Yeah, okay. So if we're looking at it, it looks to be the third Tuesday of every month. The toughest or the one that's going to have probably the closest conflict will be December 21st. It's still a couple days away from the Christmas holiday. So I think that'll still be okay. I don't see any other true conflicts per se. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the proposed meeting schedule for our regularly scheduled meetings.
I'll make a motion for that.
Leslie, can I second?
Second.
Oh, Dr. Rodak? Bill, call the roll on that?
Yes.
Michael Torelli?
Yes.
Yes.
John Dowden?
Yes.
Leslie Pieri?
Yes.
Vincent Odock?
Yes.
Paul Ruskevich?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. So new and unfinished business, we'll jump right into it. I'll give my report, then we'll ask Bill to give his. And then we've lined up some of the projects that are different in nature this time of year. We'll get into that a little bit into my report. And we'll ask or we'll afford the opportunity for people who represent those projects to speak if they wish. They don't need to, but if they wish to speak, they can. And then we'll look for resolutions potentially to vote upon. So on the chairman's report, as you know, this board has been extremely busy in trying to get through the first couple months. The most recent activity that we had a special meeting, as you know, a couple of weeks ago with some of our elected officials, including the county executive and both of our state senators. It went pretty well, I thought. There was a lot of discussion and conversation in regards to the analysis of IDAs, and there was a lot of discussion about, at that point in time, pending laws that were pending in front of the Assembly and the Senate. That meeting was live and it was videotaped, so anyone who wants to reference it or see it can see it for themselves on our website. A lot of this different discussion, also about the characterization of how board members are appointed, and a pretty decent discussion, I would say, about who has oversight of an IDA and different such. We could potentially have those meetings again in the future, depending upon elected officials and their willingness to want to do that. We will afford ourselves every opportunity to get in front of them and to handle any questions, concerns, and/or best practices. So we look forward to that in the future. Additionally, as part of the monthly Orange County legislative calendar, while we have been afforded the ability to have the Director of Economic Development, Bill Fioravante, he's always on that E&E subcommittee, and he reports to that on a monthly basis. Within working with the IDA, he's working with us on this interim basis and has helped us give those reports. We had another meeting yesterday, of which was more of a quarterly update. It was the first time that I've attended a quarterly update type meeting, and it appears as if there's more of a formal presentation than the previous two times we were on. So in the future, when we have quarterlies, I'd like to have a PowerPoint presentation prepared by staff so that at least we have something on the record. It appears as if the other entities who did quarterly reports had that, and it's something that we lack. So it's something I look forward to changing in the near future. So it doesn't need to be as long as everybody else's. They have a lot of detail that they go into. Our reports will be more focused less on project detail, but more upon governance detail about how the IDA board is moving forward with the various aspects that we're doing. So a couple pages, I think, is more than enough, but it's something to put on the record for them. So I'll ask staff that in the future we do that and we work on that together. And then in the interim, I'll continue to give that report while I'm chairman. And then once we have a full-time executive director / CEO, potentially that will be given by that person with backup by the board and the board chair at that time. Additionally, there was a lot of good conversations that was had between the last meeting and this meeting in relation to moving forward with various aspects of stuff that we need to do. And you'll see them on some of the agenda items we have coming up later. And I'm very proud to say that the last 4 items under the new and unfinished business are something that's directly related to stuff we've talked about over the last 3 months. Both our searches for a CEO, executive director, and a RFP for legal counsel. We have more of that type of stuff to do in regards to other consultants and potential staff. And we also are looking to move forward, and we'll get to those items later, but a code of ethics for board and staff to be fully signed, and a conflict of interest declaration for board and staff to be fully looked at and signed. I'll look for votes for that and discussions on that when we get to them. Additionally, or lastly, it's been a trying month in regards to finances. And while I think we're well on our way, I couldn't say that a couple weeks ago. The ability to change all the signatories, but more importantly, get some of this online banking issues settled and fixed. I think we're in a good place. It appears as if we're moving forward and that we have a good system set up, at least right now. But that could change. We may need to simplify that in the future. But that is another thing that we work diligently on with staff in between last meeting and this meeting. And then, like we always talk about, the full compliance with the DA's request. I think we've given almost every piece of information that we have, if not to a tenth degree, but we look forward to hopefully seeing a resolution or a finalization of that so that that can, I don't want to say be put to bed, but can be finalized and we can move on and learn from the past, but more importantly, try not to repeat that in the future. So not knowing what those details are specifically, we'll wait for that to become public and then potentially respond accordingly with things that we're doing in order to make sure that the utmost of integrity and ethics is held on this board moving forward. So stay tuned in regards to that. I don't have any other detailed information to give. other than that, we hope that it's finished pretty soon. So once again, thank you for the staff. With that, I'll turn that over to Bill for his management report. And Bill, go ahead, and then we'll jump into the actual projects. When we do the projects, I'm going to ask Bill to give a brief overview. I'd like to have a couple comments by myself for each project. If the applicants want to speak, they can. We'll open it for discussion. We'll ask for consultants' opinions and moving forward. And then I think a couple of them were even asking for resolutions today. So I think that'll be the process of which we'll go. So let's jump right into it. So management report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll jump around on a few different subjects. I'll start with finance. It was in my notes to apologize to you personally for the painful process I know you had to go through yourself to become one of the signatories on one of our banking accounts. The online piece is definitely a challenge. It was for some records we were trying to retrieve for a subpoena. So we've been through this before. Ed knows this very well, and of course we had to subject you to it. But I think we're on our way there, as you said. Beyond that, we're continuing to look at opportunities to reduce our monthly expenses. We're looking at all of our contracts. We're looking at our monthly bills. I've been meeting with vendors, talking, making sure we understand exactly what services we're receiving and what levels are expected, and I'm working with them to reduce our agreements with them for audiovisual tech support, website maintenance, cleaning services, whatever it might be. We continue to look at those, and whatever else we can do to lower recurring monthly credits. Ed, for example, has been working to reduce internet service at some of our sites where maybe we have fiber optic in there where we can reduce to coax, as we talked about in the last meeting. So we continue to look at those opportunities and downgrade service when possible. We'll talk about ethics and conflict of interest if we get a little bit longer. I will tell you that we received notice from Wells Fargo last month, letting us know that Monroe Cable, cable manufacturer out of the town of Wallkill, they received a $3.5 million tax exempt bond in 2013 from the Orange County IDA. Wells Fargo wrote us to let us know that that's been paid in full. So that's completely satisfied. Just so you know that the IDA incentivized that project for a 40,000 square foot expansion of their manufacturing facility in Wallkill, adding 25 new jobs and retaining 5 jobs. So I think that's a success story. And we've reached out to Monroe Cable about obtaining a quote from them, and we'd look to do a press release to announce this. It's another piece of good news for a project that was successful that the IDA was a part of. Skipping around here, Wallkill Living Center, we've talked about that. The Wallkill Owner LLC, it's known as, they were, in addition to other IDA benefits, they were seeking revenue bonds through the IDA. They actually notified us recently that they're going to be getting those bonds through the New York State Finance Agency, Housing Finance Agency, pardon me, HFA. But they'll still be looking to come to us for a pilot in order to rework their current pilot in town of Wallkill. It's what they're seeking to do in order to make sure that they're able to maintain that property as affordable senior housing. So they'll be back in front of us for that, though we have asked the town of Wallkill IDA, who is the agency that gave them their original pilot that they're still under. We've asked them if they want to have them reappear in front of them and apply to them for those benefits. So when we get a formal response from the town, we'll either hand it back to them or we'll consider it again ourselves.
Yeah, because one of the reasons why they came to us was for the bond financing part of
Correct.
it, and that was one of the reasons why Wallkill decided to let us take lead on that, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So we look forward to either way. We're here to assist.
Another one I'll mention is IBM. We had talked about them last month because they are selling their line of business that is in the facility in Warwick, the town of Warwick, to really a spin-off company, a spin-off of IBM, Kyndryl, it's known as. They were looking to assign those benefits to Kyndryl, and they've changed their mind on that. They wish to terminate the agreement at this point. So my understanding, I don't know if Russ Genzel is on the line. I know he had some technical issues. There he is. But Russ, my understanding was that the board did not need to take action on this matter, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I spoke with, excuse me, with their or outside counsel out of New York City. And basically I think there's a year or two left of the pilot. They just determined that to terminate versus go through the assignment process, which, they have the unilateral right to do. We don't need board approval for that. They've submitted a letter basically advising us that they would like to terminate. And I told Bill, I think it would be best just to advise the board that that's what we're doing. So basically, we will terminate and the property will go back on the tax rolls.
Great. That's another success, and I want to thank IBM for their continued investment in Orange County and for that project in particular. I know a lot of people that have worked down there, and the capital investment that was made down there is really second to none. I look forward to hopefully a good, successful transition for this new company. What was the name of the company again? It was
Kindrill.
Kindrill.
Yep, that's the kind of IT infrastructure
Yeah.
company. That's what their focus is there.
Great.
Okay, so that's it for IDA projects until we get to the rest of the agenda. Just the accelerator. As you mentioned, I'm looking forward to an accelerator committee meeting. As I reported last month, things are absolutely stable at our locations, our 5 locations and our 20 accelerator clients. I feel like we've done a great job of really kind of keeping things rolling for them, giving them some comfort level that no one's going to pull the rug out from under them. So we've been providing whatever supports we can at this point, but we do have some issues to talk about. We actually have some startup companies or accelerating companies that are interested in coming to the accelerator, and we do have space in the Monroe pod actually, so we could bring in additional clients if we wanted to do that. We also have some tenants that want to move to a different location, either to an existing spot that may be larger. So we've had some discussions about that. We also will have expiring leases coming up. We already have some coming up at the end of this month in New Windsor in our fashion manufacturing pod.
End of month or end of year?
We have at the end of, I believe I have to check my chart, but I believe at the end of June, there are a couple subleases to tenants that are coming up. And then we have leases with the town of New Windsor in that case that are coming up this year and next year. So we have, those are the first leases that will be expiring in any accelerator locations. And again, we have subleases with our accelerator clients or tenants that are coming up as well. So we'll have to talk about that. And lastly, I have had a number of meetings in Highland Falls and at West Point about the artificial intelligence accelerator concept. We all know that it was left in shambles, frankly, but there is great opportunity there. So we wanted to really assess the opportunity, find out what kind of support there is, both within West Point and within the village as well, understand what costs are that would be associated with us trying to pull that off, just so that we can, when the time is right, bring it to the board and have a proper discussion about whether or not we want to see that opportunity through or go another route. So I look forward to that meeting and other committee meetings. Just last couple of items, shared a little information with you this past week about some legislation in New York State that was passed over this past year and in the 2021 session. There were a number of bills that I kind of enumerated in my update to you that impact IDAs. One extends the loans and grants program, which was a special consideration because of COVID. That's extending that till December 31st, 2022. There is a prohibition of an elected officer of a municipality serving as an agent or employee of the IDA. There's a bill that was passed by both the Senate and the Assembly that seeks to prevent competition between local IDAs and county IDAs by requiring that the local IDA cannot charge beyond what a county agency does in terms of fees. So trying to create a level playing field there as well. Prevailing wage law, there was a change to that, but I'll get to that in a second. There is also something that impacted the 485A exemption, further redefining the term commercial. And lastly, there was a bill passed that specifically impacted the City of Troy IDA. Last thing I'll mention about these are not yet laws. They were passed by both chambers of the New York State legislature, but they do need Governor Cuomo's approval, either his signature or he can wait 10 days and let the bills age, so to speak. And it essentially it's the same effect as his signing them. After 10 days, they would go into effect, or he can veto them, at which point if he were to veto any of these bills, the legislature would have to override that by a 2/3 vote in both houses in order to overturn a veto, or he could go back to the legislature and try and work on some amendments to that. So that's, again, they are not law yet, but they did pass both sides of the House, so they're important to talk about. Lastly, I'll talk about the prevailing wage law. This is something that actually was passed in April of last year of 2020 with Governor Cuomo's budget that year. And there's always been a prevailing wage law, or at least since the 1890s, that required that public projects are done by prevailing wage. And for those that don't know, prevailing wage essentially means the union rate that you're paying. That is paid in a specific work area, such as the Mid-Hudson here. So now there's a requirement, thanks to that passing last year, that some private projects could be subject to prevailing wage. Essentially, if I can put it very simply, if a project is $5 million total project cost or above, and if 30% or more, 30% total of that grand total is provided in incentives. Let me say it a different way. If they receive incentives, local or state, could be IDA benefits, could be say a grant through Empire State Development, they receive a total benefit that is in excess of 30% of their total project cost, and the total project costs are $5 million or more, then they are subject to the prevailing wage law as of January 1st, 2022. It doesn't kick in until then. I alluded to a bill that was passed this past year. Really, it just expands that prevailing wage law to also include hauling of supplies, of materials, building materials, and delivery of those materials. So those also would be subject to prevailing wage as well. That was added in the last legislation. So that's a brief summary. If you have other questions or want to dig a little deeper on those bills, please let me know. And just beyond that, I'll just mention that we have had some positive press over the last month or so, particularly about the Green Thumb project. There have been feature articles in Vice and in the Wall Street Journal, really mostly focusing on the fact that it was a prison site. And obviously people had been arrested, tens of thousands of people for marijuana and such. And part of the intent of the legislation to legalize marijuana is to try and reverse some of those social injustices. So the idea that a prison is now going to be growing medical cannabis and potentially recreational cannabis, there was a lot of interest in that particular spin, and those are what you're seeing in some of the feature articles. So they are included in your packet for your interest there. And that's it for my report, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Questions by board to staff or to the chairman?
Thanks, Bill. Sounded good.
One thing I think we should possibly do prior to January 1, 2022 is to better understand this prevailing wage requirement, the law itself, who's going to be enforcing it, and what type of calculations and how those calculations will be derived. Because I believe that if any of that onus falls upon this IDA, then we should possibly amend our application with something that is potentially signed by applicants so they're aware of it. We don't want this to something come up last minute or to become a violation after the fact type of thing. So I look forward to maybe we can work on that in the next couple months with councils to identify, maybe some of those things that may need to be tweaked, both on those, maybe even on our website or whatever. I'm sure there's state guidance on some of this, maybe through some of the trade agencies that we associate with and with other bond counsel and such who are experiencing this elsewhere, figure out what others are doing, and more importantly, make sure that we're doing it to the best of our ability. So let's put that on a tickler to potentially, as some homework to do, figure out how we need to amend our process, our procedures to account for that. And more importantly, if calculations are going to be needed, what does that mean to the IDA? And how are we going to, if the onus, like I said, is on us, how are we going to figure that out with applicants? That's totally different than trying to figure out if someone is hired locally or not. Now we're talking about those individual people and actually what wages they're going to be being paid. Totally different ballgame than trying to figure out if it's local or not. So it's something that maybe we even take to a committee level and start hashing it out, maybe like a workshop type forum where we can do a lot of back and forth and then eventually vote on something prior to first of the year.
Two things on that. You're absolutely right. The onus is on the IDA. I'm remiss in not clarifying that for tracking prevailing wage being paid on projects, it's all on us to track that. So administratively, that's going to be a burden that we have to be prepared for. And the other thing I should mention is that Loki Brill, our local labor compliance consultant that goes on site for jobs we have, ensuring that local labor is being utilized. They also have a particular specialty in this, They've actually, I've watched a video on New York State Economic Development Council where they were guest presenters talking about the impact of this law and what the impact it has on IDAs, things to look for. They would be willing to come and do a presentation either remotely or come in person. So that's something I would ask this board to consider for a little additional education on that matter.
Yeah, one of my main concerns is that, when we look at our finances and sometime third quarter, we'll start doing next year's budget. We have to figure out these revenue sources. Revenue sources are derived from fees that we charge for projects. And this potentially could affect our revenue sources, I think, pretty significantly because cost benefit analysis are going to be done by projects to determine if they can afford to pay prevailing wage or not. And our incentives compared to what the additional cost for prevailing wage will be a discussion that they're going to have. They'll have it with us, but they're going to have it internally, and there'll be a go or no-go type scenario where the benefits may not outweigh the prevailing wage costs. So I have a concern on that, but it's a concern that's going to be throughout New York State. It's not just imposed upon or mandated upon just the Orange County IDA. So it's something that we have to think about in a workshop and plan accordingly for because it could definitely affect our revenue streams in regards to trying to be self-sustaining with the fees that we generate. All right. Any other questions of staff or of the for the management report?
Yeah.
Yes, Vince.
Vincent, yes. Just a little bit clarification. When you spoke about IBM earlier, IBM termination of their contract with us. Did they give any particular reason? Because did they presented a reason for doing that, or leaving us?
Russ, you had communication with them. Was there further clarity on that?
Yeah, Vincent, that's a good question. So essentially, they are at the very end of their pilot. So the benefits that would be transferred from IBM to the acquiring entity are of de minimis value. So they just determined for ease of their own internal processes just to terminate and have the IDA documents terminated and the property put back on the tax rolls. I think if they were in the early years of their pilot or 5 years even left, there may have been a different economic analysis. But really the benefits that were going to be transferred were, like I said, de minimis, and they just decided to terminate.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions, board members? Council, any questions to staff at this point? Okay. With that, let's go to the next agenda item, CRH Realty 3. Bill, would you like to give an overview of this? And then I'd like to have a couple sentences that I add to it.
Absolutely. So this pertains to Crystal Run Healthcare's facility in Monroe. It's a 70,000 square foot facility. In 2013, the Orange County IDA granted them a pilot as well as a sales tax exemption and mortgage recording tax exemption. The pilot was amended in 2015 and it runs through 2026. Crystal Run is selling that facility to Hams Partners. They're a real estate investment firm that focuses on the healthcare sector. They're doing this because of a challenging year, as we all know, in healthcare. That's really the motivation for this. So they're asking to assign the benefits that were given to Crystal Run to Hams in this sales transaction. I will say that this request was approved by the prior board via resolution on April 9th of 2020. But Crystal Run has come back to us now because they're close to hoping to close this transaction. Want to make sure the new board is in favor. Representing Crystal Run is Doug Sandstead as well as Lisa Card. And from Hams, we have Will Roberson here as well to answer any questions you may have.
Sure. So before we allow them to speak, there's a couple questions that I have in relation to this bill, and I think maybe you can answer them. We just want to make sure that this applicant is up to date on their types of state reporting requirements that they've done. They've obviously physically built the facility, which is a beautiful facility. I've driven past it numerous times, and I want to make sure of the benefits. I'd like you to speak of the benefits, not only they spent the money, including investing the money in capital investment of the building, but the job creation, right?
Absolutely. And reporting, and we'll talk to that. We have to, of course, submit Paris reports to the ABO every year, talking about all our projects that are active and such. And we rely on Crystal Run to provide us job numbers, et cetera. And they've provided those diligently every year. So we have checked that, and that's not an issue whatsoever.
Great.
Of course, there's significant job creation. Perhaps Crystal Run can give us an update on what those numbers, where those numbers stand now. But certainly the location has been a benefit to both to the immediate area in Monroe and to the county. So we consider it a very successful project as well.
Sure. From recollection, do you recall what type of pilot agreement this was? Was this a standard 485B, 10-year type arrangement? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't. I have to pull that. I have that document. Maybe Doug or Russ, I believe, is going to chime in.
Doug, I'll leave it to you.
I think that's right.
Yeah, it was a 10-year pilot. I don't think it was the 485B equivalent. I think it was the standard 10-year pilot, which is a little bit more aggressive than 485B, but it did not deviate from the agency's uniform tax policy.
Great. And with that, obviously, a commercial tax base was formed there. So it was more than what the land was paying. So there was a benefit there. The special taxing jurisdictions, I'm sure, if it was followed correctly, are at 100% of their ratables. So that's another benefit. I'd like to speak each project about the benefits for full transparency, so that people that are watching or that understand these types of projects and benefits understand that there are major benefits that occur through industrial development agencies. It's not only just the jobs and the wages and the construction jobs and the capital investment and the increase to commercial tax base, but it's also those special districts that rely upon a commercial tax base. And obviously, it helps balance the books on those other jurisdictions in relation to bringing in additional ratables. So, Bill, anything further you want to add to this, or anything that?
I wanted to get you some of those details, but unfortunately, the way I have this set up, if I get off my screen here, I'm going to lose everybody.
No.
I'm coming through my phone, but I'll get you that information.
In the future, just have that as like a little side, just in case. So if there's ever a question about it, just so.
I think I'm going to have two computers next time. Actually.
Maybe two computers.
I thought that a few minutes ago.
Anything from council in regards to this, or anything you'd like to opine upon, or anything from the applicant?
You're aware of the communication that was received this afternoon with respect to that?
Yes, I am.
I mean, there's a letter from Senator Skoufis asking questions about what would happen essentially if this didn't happen, and why are you allowing the transfer to happen? I'll just say the concern I had with respect to the senator's concerns, it might be a year too late, given that the prior board already voted for this, and I think there's an interesting question whether or not that's actually binding on us at this point. I asked Russ, we all received this communication, unfortunately, just 2 hours ago or so. I asked him to share it with the applicants so they could explain the effect of not approving this. I just want to put it on the record so we're all aware of it.
Yeah, this is Russ. Bill made me aware of the senator's correspondence. And as Langdon noted, it did just come in. Maybe Doug can speak to the financial impact. And I know that staff and legal counsel Langdon and his office had asked for some additional, weeks ago, financial information about the ability for HAMS to, continue the payment obligation under the pilot, which Doug and his team, I think, sufficiently put together, and I think that's been shared with the board. So really, it's not to punt, but it's a business decision that the board needs to make. And I don't know, Doug, if you wanted to add.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. One, thank you for having us this afternoon/evening. And I think I would echo the comments. This has been an incredibly successful project. And it's, as you all know, it's not our only project in Orange County that the IDA has supported, and we have in adjacent counties buildings that IDAs in those counties have supported. And just in broad terms, I think we're the largest employer in Orange County, and all of our employees are in IDA supported buildings. And we have 2,000 employees in Orange County. At that site right now, I think 165 or 70. In Orange County alone, almost $160 million in payroll. And at that site, 12.5 million in payroll. And our compensation is not at the low end of the Orange County market. Our average compensation is $88,000 a year. And if you exclude the overpaid doctors, but don't tell them I said that, it's almost $60,000 for us regular staff. So this is the the projects that we've done with the IDA over the years have been very successful and will continue, I think, to be so. And here, the pilot was for the benefit of the Crystal Run Healthcare organization. We happened to set up a separate entity to own the realty, but that entity, we have a triple net lease. So it's Crystal Run that, the pilot was for the benefit of, and the benefit was for Crystal Run, so it would hire all these people, which we did. And by the separate real estate entity selling to Hamas, that shouldn't take away the benefit that Crystal Run negotiated for and was granted. And it's certainly not a violation, as the good senator would have the reader believe. And I know better than to fight City Hall. I think it's better just to disagree with many of the assertions that the senator said. But this, as I mentioned, we've had support from the IDA here and in other counties, and in all those cases but one, the original real estate investors, which were the physician owners, eventually sold to a new owner because they no longer wanted to be landlords and they wanted to, sell that property. In all cases, the physician group and the management company have been 20 or 25-year tenants going forward. So these transactions actually lock in Crystal Run to these buildings in Orange County much longer than the pilot does, which is for the benefit of the county and the county's economic power. So I would, hope that the IDA board can reapprove this, even if it's not formally required. We certainly, we want your blessing to move forward. And with that, I think I'll pause if there's any questions that I could address.
Any questions by,
I would just ask Russ if you could discuss this, and I think you discussed it last month, but I was on my phone, so I was not here. Is this something that happens on a regular basis where pilots get assigned and transferred? Is there any prohibition in state law about this? Is this a normal course of action?
yeah, this is like a normal type of transaction. This is not a brand new project looking to build. This is something, and we're going to experience this every once in a while. So Russ, please, yeah.
Yeah, this is, I don't want to say this happens at every IDA meeting, whether in Orange County or elsewhere, but it is not atypical where a project sponsor is basically selling their facility. The purchaser comes in and agrees to continue the job retention and creation and continue operations. We have within our documents requirement that they go to the board unless it's an assignment to a related party that is less than 51% of common ownership. So they don't have the unilateral right just to transfer to anybody they want to a dollar store and close the operations and change things. So we have in place, contractual obligations that the project applicant has to comply with, which is what we're doing now. So this is not atypical. We're not changing the benefits. All the costs associated with the assignment documents that assuming the board agrees to proceed will be prepared by Harris Beach, which Crystal Run and the S&E would be required to pay for, which isn't that much work. So it's not atypical.
My only concern with not approving it would simply be that, as I said, the board already approved it a year ago, so the Crystal Run and Hemis has been acting in reliance on that approval for a year. So it's an awful slippery slope if we start revoking things that were already approved.
Questions by board? Any questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I did check my file. It is a 10-year pilot, not a 485B. It is a typical 10-year. Every year it goes up another 10%. Okay, so
Thank you. I'll make a comment on this. One, I want to thank Crystal Run for their continued investment, not only in Orange County, but the region, and the job creation, and the increase of commercial tax base, and the economic impact. There's so many positives to this. It would be a different conversation if Crystal Run was looking to divest this property and then leaving it. That would be a totally different conversation. But at this point, they're willing to stay. They're staying past their pilot term date. And I'm going to be in full support of this. But any other questions, concerns by board before I ask for a motion?
I just have a quick question. Is there a monetary value applied to this?
So I assume there's a value to Crystal Run being able to free up cash as a result. I mean, Crystal Run's real estate holding company
Right.
frees up cash because Hemi's then is gonna pay that cash. So I don't think there's a monetary value to the county one way or the other. I think it's probably the ability to free up cash for our healthcare industry after this past year. And Crystal Run's here if they have anything else to add, I'm sure.
Well, I think the county would get a transfer tax, right? That's another benefit, right? There would be some sort of filing tax with the county clerk's office or like a sales tax on a sale of a property?
I don't know if they're exempt from that or not.
Okay.
Yeah, it would just be to Senator Scoof's questions, obviously, about the disenfranchisement of the taxpayers in Monroe. Does Senator Scoofus have a monetary number attached to that there's a value, or is there an estimate of that? Just for us to know.
I think his position is that if Hemi's is coming in and buying it, that they're buying it for a better price than they would have been paid if they had to pay full property taxes on it.
Right, and is there an estimated value to that Senator Scoofus has in mind? Is he just,
You did not communicate that.
did not communicate that? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to remind the board that Mr. Roberson is here from Hamas, if you so choose to ask any questions of the new entity.
I'm good. Any other questions, concerns, board? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion, and at this point, I'd like to make that motion to accept the assignment for the transfer from Crystal Run CRH Realty 3 to Hemi's in regards to this transaction. I think that is close enough to something that someone could work on a resolution, but I'd like to get a second on that.
I'll second that.
Cool. Any discussion, further discussion?
No, there's a resolution that Bill, that Russ had prepared that's been presented all your
Sure.
packets, so that's the resolution you're
Yep,
actually.
right. With that, will you call the roll, please?
Sure. Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowda,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Vincent Owen,
Yes.
Oliver Skevich.
Yes.
5 yeas, motion passes.
Thank you, Crystal Run, and thank you, Hemes, and you're more than welcome to stick with us if you'd like to watch the rest of our IDA meeting, but at this point, we don't need we don't expect to have to answer any more questions in relation to this today.
The only thing I want to see is how Tom does. If he's next, I'm going to stick around for saying.
Thank you for your time.
You laid the
gauntlet.
Thank you. So Bill, go to the next agenda item, St. Luke's Cornwall Hospital. Can you give us a status or an update on that and what they're looking to do?
Yes, sir. Similar issue in that the financial pressures that we all understand the healthcare organizations are faced with was a factor here as well. As a result of those, St. Luke's Cornwall Hospital negotiated a forbearance agreement with their commercial lenders. Not a forbearance with us is not what they're seeking, but that forbearance agreement does require amendments to their to St. Luke's 2001 and 2006 OCIDA issued bonds. And I want to be clear that the forbearance agreement with the other lenders and the impact that it has on our agreements regarding the bonds will have no impact on their ability to repay the bonds whatsoever. Nothing's going to change with the revenue that comes in or the timing of that. It's just some simple amendments need to be made, some language in those amendments in order to enable the forbearance agreement. And we also have Richard Dennett is on with us. He was on last month. Thanks for being here, Rick. He's also available to answer the questions anyone has.
Once again, board members, this is like an abnormal type of transaction. This is more on the language side of things. I think we have a resolution there talking about that. I'd like to open it up to questions of board members. One, I would like to thank St. Luke's for being forthright and making a presentation. They made it and provided us with the info. I know I was on a conference call specifically with them individually to better understand this because I had some misunderstandings of it as well. This is, like I said, an abnormal type of IDA transaction. So I'd like to open up to board members if they have any questions, concerns, issues, and then council.
So basically, this is just clarifying the language and has no real effect on our end.
It doesn't materially doesn't impact us. Also,
Yeah,
Russell,
this is Russ. You know, Mike is right. This is atypical pre-COVID. These types of forbearance agreements are being done both on the taxable and tax exempt side of financings across the state. But the short of it, again, it doesn't in any way, shape, or form impact the IDA as issuer of the tax exempt bonds in any way, shape, or form. We just need to approve it because we are party to some of those documents.
And I think there's no question about the benefits of having a hospital in your county. I don't think anybody should have a question about that. They've done unbelievable work during this pandemic, and as well as Crystal Run, as well as the remainder of our healthcare industry. It's one of our strengths here in Orange County. Any other questions, concerns, council question, concerns, anything that we have to go over?
No.
Okay. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion. Anyone like to give that motion? Or
I'll make that motion.
John, can we have a second?
Vincent,
Thank you, Vince. Bill, you like to call the roll on that?
Sure. Michael Torelli?
Yes.
John Dowda?
Yes.
Leslie Pieri?
Yes.
Nodak?
yes.
Paul Riskevich?
Yes.
5 yeas.
Great. I think we spoke about IBM. Is there something else that we need to speak about in relation to that? Is something that we want to, it's not I don't think this one is resolution worthy at this point. It's because they are afforded that ability to exit their agreements with us at any given time, right? So.
Yeah, then that's correct. And Mike, again, there will be some costs associated with that, but that will not be borne by the IDA in any way, shape, or form.
Great. Great. Anything council-wise we have to do for IBM?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Once again, just want to thank them for their continued investment. I know that the IDA has had a direct relationship with IBM for decades in relation to many different things, and a lot of our funding has come from them when they divested out of the region with the change in business scope and model and all that stuff. A lot of history, but I think they've been a good partner to us. So I want to thank them once again and look forward to having, we all look forward to having a business relationship with this new entity that's coming in to take over that line of business. All right. Okay. With that, we'll go into the next items, which you'll have, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, is there information within our packet on the search for the CEO Executive Director?
Yeah, I believe those are.
Do we know which pages they are?
Yeah, there's a help wanted ad for CEO that is in the packet just after the calendar that we looked at.
It's 29.
Correct. I keep forgetting there's page numbers.
Yeah.
Page 29 on there. And then on page 31, there's an ad for general counsel.
Great. I'd like to begin by saying that I'm very happy to have this on our agenda. I've asked council to work with our other councils and firms and other stuff to better understand what are the distinct requirements. So while we have a draft, I'll say help wanted search for a CEO Executive Director, it may need to be tweaked a little bit because of a couple different things. We want to make sure that the nomenclature that we're using for this position is what is allowable underneath the state requirements and our bylaws. So I want to make sure of that. We also really better understand the role of what this leader is going to be. At our last meeting, while I do have some reservations and some concerns about having this position be a non-county employee, it was discussed at our last meeting with the elected officials, and it appeared to be that there was not a want or to have that continue to be, or to be a county employee moving forward. I do like the ability, and I'll say this out loud, is that, with a county employee, which some counties afford their IDAs to lead, comes with it the support mechanisms. So by no means is, by doing this, do we have all the answers yet? And what I mean by support mechanisms is you have a human resource department at the county level, you have an ethics department at the county level, those type of things. So those are some things that we may have to work on during the course of the next few months. But it appears as if there's not a willingness by the county to have a county employee be the CEO/executive director of the Orange County IDA. So with that, we're going to open it up to it being a private type of position or a non-county type position. And there are still a lot of questions in relations to that. We are still seeking some analysis for compensation. So that's still out there. And while no determination has been made to date, we're asking some of our industry partners to help us with that, to better understand maybe with some of the most recent positions that have been out throughout the state in regards to IDAs have awarded or have notified or have noticed in regards to salaries. We also want to better understand scope of work. While I think we have a good handle of it, we also want to make sure that we're covering all our bases. The idea here is that we would do this search. The search would come back with resumes, and then a committee or a small subcommittee will be formed to vet those resumes and begin the process of potential interviews. Going right along with interviews would be hopefully a short listing of candidates, of which at a certain point of time we would entertain them making presentations to the full board, and then eventually the full board voting upon whether we want to hire somebody out of that pool of candidates. So it's going to be a very open and transparent process, but this is the first step of it. So this is the draft. We are going to ask for a vote tonight to authorize the search. The beginnings of that search would be this draft help wanted /search. I have a couple corrections on it myself, but we'd ask in a basic concept for it to be authorized tonight with the assumption that we will work with council to better redefine this, send it out to everybody quickly for their review and comment. And obviously, if you have comments, to add it to it before we go final with it. And then we would put it out to the market and then begin to receive resumes from it. At this point, I'd like to open it up to questions or concerns about this search. But more importantly, I'd like to be able to continue the steady ball rolling forward, because we have, while it's not only this one, we have the next agenda item, and we're going to have future ones in the future where we're going to need to search for different entities, whether if it's employees or whether if it's consultants or whether if it's project help, you name it. But I'd like to open it up to questions, concerns, and discussion.
So you're looking for approval to approve this draft tonight?
I'm looking for the approval to authorize the search to begin. The way that that search would begin is that this draft, once it's in final form, would then go ahead and be put to the public and be, I'll say, publicized so that we can begin to receive resumes. So
would we be approving that final draft before it goes up?
yes. Yeah.
By formal resolution? Or?
That's a good question. I don't think formal, I think what we're asking tonight is a formal resolution to begin the search. This is the draft of what it says. I think one of the immediate corrections I'd like to do is I'd like to correct Kelly's email address to the Orange County IDA one, not the accelerator one. We're tending to move away from the accelerator.com.
This is,
yeah.
I think we amended it for the most recent.
Oh, you already did?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, that was the previous version I saw. I apologize. I did not have the page in front of me right now. Okay, I do now. So yes, that was one of them. Obviously, we have to get a range of salaries. We're working on that with New York State EDC, as well as some of our council, as well as some other entities that have recently hired IDA people. So we're trying to better get a handle on that. And we're looking for a tentative, deadline to apply to be in. And then the idea is that if we can have everything in, while it says filling the position by August 1st, we have to actually have it, we have to actually come to a board meeting to actually approve that. So if we don't do it by the third Tuesday in July, which is not that far away, it would probably go into that third Tuesday in August, unless we do something special. So that's still a kind of to be determined, because we have to get all the resumes in and get through these steps before we can actually have, I say, a small list of candidates presented to the board. So what we're looking for today is an authorization to start this process, to start this search. But to answer your question correctly, this will go in final form once everyone makes comments. But this is the basis.
Well, when do we have to vote to approve that at a meeting? Or?
Well, I think that if we can vote today to start the process, we will share any of the amendments that anybody wants to make. And then I think by informal process, you'll make those corrections, we'll agree to them or disagree to them, we'll come to final form and then put it out. I don't think we have to come to back at another meeting to come and do a final resolution on a search. I think just the search, we're asking for the search to start today, and this is one of the mechanisms.
Okay.
And this is, we have to have time. So if you don't have time to review it, or if you want to have more time to review it, we can go into that, but this won't go out until everybody agrees that it can go out.
You agree with that?
Yes, my only suggestion would be pass a resolution authorizing these, what I call help wanted ads, to go out in a form ultimately approved by the chairman, and then he'll have to develop consensus with you over the next week or two to,
Okay.
but at least then you've done it and you'll
Okay. Yep.
put it in a form that you're all
Yeah,
satisfied.
because then we don't need to go through a word exercise today.
No.
But take a look at it, ingest it, and I'll say.
I just want to make sure we're doing it.
Yep, if we get comments back, if, preferably by the end of the week, if we can, it's only a one pager, it's not the biggest thing in the world.
I drafted last by Steve Gross, Commissioner of HR for the county. Steve tweaked it, ran it by one of our contract attorneys. She tweaked it some more, and then we sent it over.
Great. Questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as far as nomenclature is concerned, we, under the bylaws, there is no executive director any longer of the IDA. There is a managing director, and there's a CEO and a COO. So, and each one has different duties or slightly different duties as far as enumerated in your bylaws. So I think you want to make sure that if you're going for a CEO, you may want to get rid of the managing director and sort of consolidate those two into one person and one description of the duties.
Yeah, I've effectively done that. I mean, you're gonna have to amend your bylaws.
Yeah.
I mean, the bylaws are very, very detail oriented, and I'm not sure the reasoning why they were so detail oriented. But certainly the bylaws need to be changed, no question about that.
So we'll take that up under the governance committee
And I think
to
that
talk
makes
about
sense.
bylaws, and obviously we're gonna have some changes, but thank you for that clarification. So I know that some IDAs call them executive directors, I know some calls them CEOs. I'm not sure what the state requirement is, if it's an actual requirement or not. But whatever it needs to be called, it will be called, and we'll amend our bylaws associated. But this ask or this request is for the search for our leader, our full-time day-to-day, leader that's going to be the leader of our staff, that's going to be reporting to us directly. And this is the decision that the board makes directly. So I think I explained it the best I could, but any other questions, concerns? All right, I'd like to make a motion, and I'd like to lead that, to make the motion to begin the process to search for our CEO, executive director, and whatever else we have to call it. I get a second.
I'll second.
Bill, or any discussion, any further discussion? Anybody have any questions?
I'm good.
All right, roll call, Bill?
Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowd,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Vincent Odoc,
Yes.
Borskevich.
Yes.
5 yeas, passes.
Great. Next line of business, or agenda item is, once again, a request for a help wanted ad for general counsel. As we know, we've had Mr. Dowd as our general counsel for some period of time, and there's going to need to be a transition as a certain period of time is going to need to lapse, as Mr. Dowd will be retired. I didn't want to say it, but it is what it is. That's the reality. So in this instance, once again, we're asking to start this search. This is our second ask in regards to this. This will be for general counsel, and this will be to work with day-to-day operational needs of staff and board. We're only going to have the assistance so long of the county's legal department. And while that'll continue at a minimum through the DA subpoena, Orange County legislative request and such, at a certain part of time, while we may go back and ask them for their opinions on things, from that last meeting that we had, once again, it was determined, or at least opined upon, that we should be doing this on our own and not with county direct employees. While I have opinions on that, and I think that having both the economic development director and the whole entire legal department of the county is a major asset, at least during this transition it has been. I understand it, but this is something that we look forward to moving forward with. And in this instance, this is more of it's more than just a search. It's also a request for proposal. This will have dollar figures amounted to it, whether if it's an hourly rate or a monthly rate. This will go and depict level of service and experience and expertise. Obviously, they have to be a lawyer in order to do this. So it's a narrowed pool. It's not just open to anybody to give opinion. This is also something that we want to make sure there's a transition. And speaking with Council Dowd, he's opined and offered his assistance during this transition, whether as fast as we go or as long as we need to take to come up with this. There's going to be a transition of history and of documents and of expertise from one to another. So that period of transition is going to be key. Obviously, we'll have transition and assistance with the county attorney's office as well, because there's a lot of different things that are being worked on, including the subpoena and the request for information from the county legislature. So with this, I ask for, and what we're looking for is an approval to start the search. This is the draft, I'll say, help wanted aspect of it. Once again, we'll ask that we'll move forward with this we'll try to put this into final form. And then the authorization would be to allow for council to put it in final form once everyone agrees to it. And then we would go, I'll say, go live or go out with it and try to procure this and start obtaining responses. As those responses come in, we'll evaluate them at a committee level. And then the best bunch of responses will come in, and then potentially, once again, we'll do interviews with the full board and vote on it at a future date. It'll be something that'll be open and transparent, and it'll be something that to a point where we all feel comfortable. So questions or concerns about opening up the ad for general counsel? I'll even consider it local general counsel. That's going to be key, at least in my review. I wanted to have something accessible and really understands the Orange County market. Questions, concerns? Questions, concerns, anyone? Council, questions and concerns?
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman, as I said to you on the phone, I would be very happy to assist in any way I can.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so with that, I'll ask before we ask for the vote, I'll ask for the board to review this. If you have any questions, concerns, corrections, additions, anything you'd like to add to it, this one is a 2-pager. Yeah, so please have them if you can by the end of the week, so we can try to get this out as early next week as possible. With that, I'll entertain a motion to move forward with the search for local legal counsel, local general counsel. Sorry.
I'll make a motion.
Leslie, a second?
Yes.
Vincent?
Thank you, Vince. Bill, roll call?
Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowda,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Oda,
Yes.
Oliver Skevich,
Yes.
5 yeas.
Next on the agenda is a topic, actually, they go hand in hand. You have the drafting of 2 types of documents. One is a code of ethics for board and staff, and the other one is a conflict of interest declaration for board and staff. With this, we'll look at them one at a time. In this instance, you have the draft version. It has been previously been sent to you. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it. In this instance, the first one, which is the conflict of interest policy, goes into some of the specifics of what a policy would be. And in particularly, this would request that all board members and staff members would sign this and would become part of our files in relation to that. This was something that obviously, as we want to be as transparent as possible, we want to understand conflicts of interest. With this, once we agree to the form and we execute it, one of the things that I will begin to ask at the beginning of every meeting is for everyone to look at their agendas And I've seen this happen at other IDA board meetings and other board meetings of such where there could be potential conflicts of interest. And I'd like for everybody to opine on if they have a conflict of interest or not at the beginning of a board meeting, so that if there is one, they affords the member, the board member or staff member, I have to say that as well, the ability to recuse themselves from either voting and or presenting and or discussing it. This is something that I think is integral, and it's something that while we really had to, I'll say, while we always focused on it in the back of our minds, and we had some training on it as well during our ABO training and such, this is something that I think we have to stay focused upon. I know personally, and I'll say this, prior to my acceptance to the Orange County IDA, and even prior to that, when I was being considered, I did make it known in writing to both County Legislative Council and to council of my employer that I will be recusing myself on anything that I have a conflict with, in particularly being an employee of a bi-state agency. I help represent property over at New York Stewart International Airport. While I don't get compensated directly for that in relation to projects that come or go or anything like that, there's no basis of that. I do help represent that, and I am an employee there. So if and when we ever have, and hopefully someday we will, a project that's looking to come to that particular 2,406 acres of which I'm an employee of, I would totally recuse myself and hand it over to the vice chair to run the meeting at that point in time during that board item. I would also not take part in any of the discussions and or if there is negotiations and or offline dealings with anything like that. So what I would ask is that we review this. If we have any questions or concerns, bring them up now. I think we've had time to review it, but I would like to eventually, if we all are in favor of the way that it's worded today, actually vote on it and put it in so that we can make it a document that becomes a living document that we all have to execute. So with that, I'll turn it over to others for questions or concerns, then to staff and to council if they have any questions or concerns.
So we haven't had policies similar to this previously? The Orange County IDA hasn't?
I do not believe so.
Yeah, so the Senate Investigations Committee actually did a very helpful report last year or a year before on a whole series of IDAs across the state and a chart of who had conflict of interest, who had ethics, and they said we didn't have it. So then I asked Bill, and we verified staff-wise that no such policy existed.
Okay.
So I just took the ABO's model. There's no pride of authorship. I literally took the ABO's model policy, I copied and pasted it in here and tweaked it.
That's right on our website, isn't it?
It's right on the website.
It's good enough for me.
There's no magic to my writing on this.
Questions, concerns?
I'm good.
Council, questions,
Yeah,
concerns?
I read this for the first time today, so I have a couple minor points. One, I think that you should separate this from the OCFC because there's two separate organizations and you do act separately. That's a minor point, but I guess what I'm looking at is the fact that I think you might want your local council or all your council and all your consultants also to be subject to this conflict of interest statute. While the footnote refers to others to whom this policy applies, the footnote only says consulting staff who are employed by the county. Potentially, local council could have a conflict. Bond council could have a conflict. Loki Bro could have conflicts, I suppose. I mean, if they're doing a project that they're also employed by. So I think it might be better if you enumerated who this is also going to apply to try to avoid others from having conflicts of interest.
Well, certainly this idea has been full of unchecked conflicts of interest for an alarming number of years, as I think will be very evident soon. So it's something that certainly you can do. I mean, we've tried to take the ABO model policy and actually broaden it beyond the model policy here. So, you know, if you ultimately get local counsel, you want to do that, you can. I don't care if you do it tonight or not, but anytime you're going to get local counsel involved, you may have a situation where they do have from time to time a conflict and they may need to recuse themselves from it. Depends on who you ultimately hire. If you get a big law firm to come in here and handle your account, they may turn around and say, look, we can't handle this one project. So I don't know whether you want to go down that road or not at this point. I think over the next several weeks, as the DA's matter hopefully comes to a conclusion, whether it's weeks or months, however long, some of the conflicts will be very apparent that this past IDA board wasn't watching for them. So I thought it was important to try to really nail down the key matters, which are you board members right now, because I think it's pretty evident what's happened in the past.
Questions, concerns, board members?
And I have one other comment, just on page, this would be page 30, under procedures, the second paragraph. Talks about referring.
It starts on page 33, so I'm not sure.
Well, mine says third. It's the second page of the conflict of interest policy. Under procedures, the second paragraph, where the governance committee and/or ethics officer shall seek guidance. And one of the choices is counsel to the county board of ethics or the Orange County Board of Ethics. I know of one instance where what was perceived as a conflict of interest went before the county board of ethics, and they said it wasn't. And I thought it was. I think the other board members thought it was rather obvious that it was a conflict of interest. I don't want to put any names to that in a public meeting, but we'd certainly like to discuss it with you. And actually, it shocked me that the county board of ethics said it was not a conflict of interest. So, yeah, I just think that you have a whole list of people or agencies listed there, including the Oversight Authority's Budget Office, State Inspector General. I mean, do you really need to go to the County Board of Ethics if you have already an ethics officer who maybe your local council may not be, and the government committee itself? So I just, want to point that out too, because I know of an instance where it did happen that.
Well, that's a good opinion, but also we are the Orange County Industrial Development Agency, and there is an Orange County Board of Ethics. And I think that while I don't have direct relationship, I think ever going in front of them or working with or in favor of or against them, I'll ask others who may have. Has anyone brought up anything or have ever worked with the Orange County Board of Ethics? I know it's a board that is on the county website, and they have county staff, and they have volunteer board members like we do, I believe. But is there anything that, like at the county level that would supplant them? I mean, there's no other group besides, unless it's criminal, going to a DA or in some sort of investigative body. So
I'll tell you why I put that language in there. So this is, again, the model ABO policy, other than the bracketed or the italicized portions of it. So the governance committee and ethics officer advises the individual how to proceed. And it says the governance committee or ethics officer should seek advice from counsel or lists a whole group of potential people. One of the concerns I always have in trying to deal with the state is sometimes, the state's the state. They have 62 counties to deal with, and you may not be able to reach somebody up there as fast as you might need to. So by having some local counsel available, and that's only if the county ethics board wishes to. Counsel, the ethics board makes tell you to pound salt. But at least this gives you the option to be able to reach somebody locally if you want to.
Yeah.
So that was the reason for putting it in there.
Okay. I like the ability of having everything from state down to, all the way down to county. I like that idea. Questions, concerns about this in particular?
No, given that we have not had any of this, I think these are a great start. This is, quality piece of languaging. So I think we're good here.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the conflict of interest policy as written. Once it's executed, we will have 30 days once it's approved, we would have 30 days to execute as staff and board members to do so. And to be determined if we want to have consulting staff do it as well. It's something to consider, but I don't think we need to consider it tonight. We consider that as we go through. Maybe
It's always be amended.
Always be amended, or we can ask that to be added to it. But I think tonight, let's entertain, is there a motion out there to accept?
I'll make the motion to accept.
Thank you, John. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
3. Roll call, Bill.
Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowdett,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Vincent Oda,
Yes.
Olverskevich.
Yes.
5 yeas, motion passes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the, did I do them backwards? With the conflict of interest first?
Yeah.
No, I apologize.
Code of ethics.
So now we're doing code of ethics. I apologize. I
Yeah.
tricked them. I'm a little dyslexic today. So code of ethics in our package begins on page 36, I believe, for the board packets. And once again, this is something that was lacking, that we inherited, that we did not have something like this prior to this. While we all have maybe had some training on this through our ABO training and such, this is something that specifically spells out what a code of ethics really relies upon. And it talks about many different instances and stuff that shall apply. This type of document, if we decide to move forward with it, would be for both board members and for staff. And obviously could be amended and changed as we see fit. Once again, I'll ask council to opine upon this and any questions or concerns thereafter.
It's really just, again, straight from the ABO with the italicized being added and the brackets being deleted. And that's, I have no pride of authorship because they wrote it.
Any questions or concerns from staff or from board members? Pretty self-explanatory. This one will even go into notification of any, if there's any such gifts or gratuities. It really gets down into the details. And obviously, we want it to be fully transparent on this. We don't want to have any improprieties. We don't want to have any gifts or gratuities or quid pro quos in exchange for a vote for this or for something for that, those type of things. I think most of us have taken not only I think we've all taken ABO training, but we've also taken potential training through our employers, which I think most of the point is it's almost, I think, mandated now by the state. I know it's mandated on sexual harassment and those such of things, but I think a lot of us understand that and understand these. It's not a foreign concept to us to have an ethical or an ethics, a code of ethics or a policy that we would execute. If we decide to accept this, both board and staff members would have 30 days to execute in order to remain. I hate to say it that way, but it is what it is. Any questions, concerns? I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept.
Thank you, John. Second, please.
I'll second.
Leslie, roll call, Bill?
Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowdett,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Doc,
Mitch, you good?
Dr. Odoc,
Yes.
Olverskevich.
Yeah.
5 yeas, motion passes.
Thank you. I'll ask staff to print those up or email them, however you want to do it. Get people to execute them within the next 30 days if possible. And then put them in our files as part of our regular, I'll say, I don't know exactly what you call the files, Bill, there, but whatever those files are by board member, whether if it's the training, put it
Yeah,
in
we have files,
big electronic and hard copy,
Right.
so we have them.
folders for each board
Yeah.
member, essentially, with all those documents in.
Great, thank you. All right, next we'll go into our regular business, which is finance. We'll go into the, I believe, financial reports, which start on page 39. I'll ask that staff make the numbers a little bit bigger next time.
Yeah, we can work on that. I'm having trouble myself.
So this is on the OCIDA. So Bill, I'll hand it over to you and to Ed to go over and however you'd like to present.
I made my few comments at the beginning, I may chime in again, but I'll turn it over to Ed Januszkiewicz. I'm sorry, to pronounce it properly now, our CFO.
Is that how you, James?
I put Januszkiewicz as I pronounce it. You can go old country, but we won't go
You got it.
go that far.
Good.
Okay, first chart is the cash balance at the end of May. In the IDA accounts, there's $5.7 million. All that's in checking accounts and money markets right now. We're working to see about getting since we're at a point where we're a little more got all the signatures in place and stuff like that to set up, some, we get some certificates of deposit if we get better rates. I'd like to discuss that with, I believe it would be the audit committee of the terms, the lengths of CDs we would be interested in having.
Yeah, when it comes down to CDs, I've asked the county to give us some assistance with this through our county finance department. While we're not asking them to actually do the work, we're asking they do it every day. We're asking for their help and assistance with that to better understand it. So,
And Mr. Chairman, thank you. I will add that the Commissioner of Finance, Karen Haplow, she has been very helpful to us, and we've reached out to her a few times, especially when it comes to favorable rates for banks for CDs and such, and she's been very helpful and gave us a list of banks that have been preferred by the county because of rates and such, and has been following that, has pursued other options.
great. Let's make sure that we work on that in the next 30 days so that if there is an opportunity to invest, that's one way that we make revenue is through interest income, and that's afforded to us. That ability, obviously, we have to make sure that we're covering our liabilities or our short-term liabilities, and we don't hamstring us in regards to that. So please continue to work on that, and if we need to call an audit committee meeting to workshop it and then bring it to the board for discussion and approval. Thank you.
One of the things we probably need, if we're looking at a new bank, we would need approval to we can have deposits at that bank. So we just, I see that as a potential resolution.
Okay. Continue on, please.
Okay, second page is the P&L for the Orange County IDA without the accelerator expenses. This is basically the account without, again, either the accelerators or staffing in it.
This is through end of May 2021?
Correct, in the May.
Thank you.
They got May and got year-to-date May.
Yep.
All right, and budget's full year. On that, I just made a couple points on the income. You see the budget's for clothing fees is $777,000. Most of that is the Legoland final closing fee. We have invoiced them for it. That usually comes in sometime in the third quarter.
Okay.
And next one is as far as expenses going over, you see the auditors over budget. Most of that's been driven by the legislative request for information that was spent during the January, February.
Okay.
But everything else is pretty much yet to, we have, I don't think there's any projects in line there yet, and the agencies are just starting to come in. A lot of them show up at the year end.
Sure. One thing I'd like to ask staff at this point, with us being almost through a half year, when we get June's financials completed, that'll be our half year look. Sometime in July, we'd like to better understand that and compare it against our budget, and then understand where we're gonna fall, and potentially do a half year budget revision, or at least understanding. So once we get to half year, let's get together and have a, I don't know if that's considered an audit committee. I believe it is, but let's look at that on the financial side. Obviously, we want to go over through those details. Additionally, I would like to state that agency or friends of the agency or people who have already done business with us in the past, I think that moving forward, they're going to have to prove what they do to us in order to move forward to get some contributions. And while I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe these ones were already approved by the previous board. Moving forward, we would ask that these entities and anyone else who's looking to obtain funding from us, or whether it's agent status or something like that, they would have to come in and prove what they're doing and make a presentation to us. There's no guarantee that we'll have the money to be able to do this moving forward, given our budget circumstances, but that's something to put also as a homework assignment before the end of the year, especially if their budgets are fiscally just like ours are on a calendar basis, and they're looking to, we want to make sure that they don't budget for this if they have not proven to us, or they need to still prove to us how to move forward. So while I understand, I think I know most of these entities, I don't know exactly what they all do and benefits of economic development. So it's something I think that the board would appreciate to get a presentation made or at least a write-up done in order for that. So let's use that as a homework assignment or a tickler for these agency contribution cost line items. Thank you.
All right, any further questions on the IDA? All right. Next chart is the accelerators expenses. Yeah, we basically, last month we spent $88,000, year-to-date $703. Items I just mentioned that are potentially over budget would be utilities. That is running over, for some of the estimates we put in for our taking on the oil at the utilities over at
Highland Falls.
Highland Falls and also Newburgh. We're paying that directly. That may just be better timing than waiting for reimbursing the landlord. And the other item is on the marketing PR. That basically is, when the budget was set, there was a number of activities that were going to be reduced. A couple of them have not happened yet, and some of them may also be budget classification. The difference between professional fees and marketing, especially in some IT support, maybe properly split in the budget, but still, I mean, it's combined. I think the marketing is going to be over plan at this time.
Yeah, that included an upgrade in terms of AV support, technicals, especially with last year with the COVID response webinars the IDA did and such, and they did increase the contracts in those areas with 88 Studios, for example, Dean, who does a lot of work for us, obviously, and some other advisors.
Yeah, that is some of that's what not budgeted. We expect, I think the expectation was to be out with COVID earlier.
Okay, so this is an overview. Obviously, we'll get into some of the details of this because I have some questions on the details on the next page.
Okay.
Continue on.
All right. Okay, that's the spending performance to date. Next chart is for the invoice payment approvals for the IDA. First chart totaling $47,297.43 is the recurring building expenses. Mostly, is rent, utilities, IT, cleaning, copier services. One that doesn't really fit that is on the first page of this is the Altiva Warwick, which is the corporate name of Warwick Telephone. You see there's $550 we had for the Wi-Fi router installation. That was the clients at Warwick Manor House were dissatisfied. We were having trouble with the Wi-Fi service that we initiated there, and we contacted Warwick, and they basically came in with an additional router installed to cover the full building.
So explain this to me. Altiva Warwick, if you brought that up, all right, so what were we paying, and now we're paying significantly higher?
No, we just did one-time expense.
That's not a recurring fee. That $550 is a one-time charge for the technical work going in and making the changes necessary to upgrade the service.
And who authorized that?
I did. That came to me on I get it.
Any variances or anything you want to talk about before we open it up to questions on this first batch?
Nothing identify that's different than the, significantly different than the previous.
Ed, was there something you want to point out about Loki Bill?
Oh, that's the next chart.
That's right.
All right, so this is just the building. You want to go for the
So,
whole thing?
no, we'll do it one batch at a time,
Right.
so we try to stay consistent.
That's
At this point, I'd like to open it up to board members to ask questions about the first batch, which is in our packet, page 42 and 43. I have a question if no one else does. Orange and Rockland Utilities, Highland Falls, please give me an update on how we're trying to save money there.
Ed, you've
Okay, I contacted, I guess this bill was still higher. Their reports that was provided to me appears that our expense is driven by the demand component of the bill, not the usage. And what made it even higher is we have a time of use contract for that building. So, for example, if they're using more power, peak power at the middle of the day, it's a higher rate than in the middle of the night.
Okay, so once again, I'll ask for staff to entertain going and speaking with Orange and Rockland on this. This is an unoccupied building. We're paying over $1,300 a month for utilities that there's nobody in there using. So I don't know how to get this through, but we have to figure out a different way. And if it means going down there and changing accounts and or changing demand or changing commodity, or we need a solution to this because this is unsustainable. I mean,
One thing they found out was they did a test on the second floor compressor that drove the demand. All right, that was just, probably
During peak hours.
During peak hours, that shouldn't recur again. We got back to the landlord about taking care, these type of things that, running equipment, the maintenance things that would drive electricity that is above and beyond the, just normal air handling systems or whatever. So hopefully there's some control on that one. People are aware of that. We're trying to get to shut down whatever lights we can. We just have to get down to Highland Falls and know where the right switches are.
I played with some of that myself last time I was there.
And the other option would be adjusting the air handlers / whether to make sure that the air conditioning is at the right, not at 60 degrees.
I'll say it once again. Act as if this is something that you had to pay yourselves.
Right.
And figure out how to lower this to a point where it's a little more acceptable. I mean, I don't know what it is, and if it takes for us to have to go down there with you, I'm sure that we'll try to. But literally, that's something that, once again, back-to-back months have raised my eyebrow on in regards to an unoccupied, uninhabitable building. And I don't know what the solution is, but I'm asking you guys to work on that and come back with a solution.
Mr. Chairman, your point's well taken. Ed's been working hard on this, but I'm going to jump in. Obviously, I have some Orange and Rockland contacts through my economic development work.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to them and see if we can kind of go up the ladder on this and get some relief.
Yeah. The other one that I see getting up there is this Central Hudson multiple electric and gas 334 Avenues of the Americas. 1 month bill of, if I'm not mistaken, $1,850 or $1,849.
Yeah, a lot of that's the result of them being manufacturers in those spaces and using heavy equipment that utilize a lot of electricity during peak hours again.
Okay.
That's really mostly the explanation there.
All right. Questions, concerns for rest of staff members, or sorry, rest of the board members? Any line items you want to have clarification or discussion upon? These ones are our reoccurring in our building services. We have others that we have to get into as well. The idea here is that we'll go through this batch. If no other questions, or if we want to vote on them as a whole, or if there's anything we want to hold off on, we can. But we'll do this in batches so that we don't have to come back. We'll just do this first batch, page 42 and 43.
Okay. All right, no questions further on the recurring bill payments. The next set is the monthly.
Hold on, we have to vote on it.
Hold on, you want by separate? Okay, I thought it was at the end.
Yeah, no, we're gonna do it individually because that's how we have it set up. You said Frontier, the $5.99, second page,
Right,
monthly fiber, that's in the Middletown.
yes,
That's a reoccurring monthly $599 payment?
correct.
What are we doing about that?
I contacted Frontier. We still have another 3 months on the contract for that service. And I talked to their customer service. They're going to send me to redirected me to a sales rep that I need to, you have to make contact with.
How much usage are we having in Middletown? Anyone know? How many tenants do we have there? I don't remember off the top of my head.
There are about, I want to say 6 tenants that are in there. I have all the stuff at my fingertips. I just can't switch to the screen. And there are a number of empty pods there as well. But we do have some, for example, candle manufacturing uses heaters, again, equipment that uses a lot of energy, frankly. So, and that tenant, for example, that I'm thinking of is in there a lot. Many of the others are low usage, low energy usage, but a couple of the manufacturers, the makers there definitely expend a lot of energy. That too, I could jump in though, Mr. Chairman, and have contacts at Frontier and see if there's anything they could do for us as well.
You said you're already working with office cleaning. This one shows office cleaning for Middletown at $2,024. I think have you already worked on that, or is that something?
We have. That was $3,000. That's down, and we're expecting even lower.
Thank you. All right, question, concerns on the first batch?
Yeah, the Orange County Chamber of Commerce annual membership, that's due in June, is that why it's on the June? That's not recurring, is it? That's an annual?
It's annual. We had not been a member most recently, and of course, Chairman has led the way on this in terms of a new spirit of cooperation with our economic development partners here locally. The Chamber can be very helpful, especially with our accelerator clients. So we've already referred a few of our clients in there. So we pay one rate for one fee. It's economically, see what it is, and it allows our accelerator clients to be members at just $25 a month, which if they can't afford that, you know, there's not a lot of buying on there in that regard. So I've been reintroducing that benefit to the tenants, accelerator tenants. They've many have appreciated that and taken advantage.
The networking opportunities for them alone
Absolutely
are worth $25.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any questions, concerns? Any further questions, concerns on the first batch? Entertain a motion to accept unless you have any exceptions. Anybody want to give a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to
All right,
accept.
John?
Yep.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, Vince? Okay. Roll call, Bill, on the first batch.
Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowdett,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Vincent Oda,
Yes.
Walter Skevich.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, presentation on page 44. Go ahead.
All right, fine, these are monthly service contracts. Okay, we just going down the list, UHY, that's the retainers for bookkeeping for both the Business Accelerator, the IDA accounts. 88 Studios, that's the monthly retainer for their services there. Loki Brill, that's driven by site visits and the reporting. There's a credit in there. We come out from last month, so I think the total was closer to $4,000, but the bill is only $27.55. Brown and Weinrob, that's the consulting retainer for the month of June, $5,500. And then we have Kevin Services, both for May, and I had an error in my calculation when I summed up the previous invoices. I was short $360 for the April invoice, and including that adjustment in this payment request.
Okay, so in this batch, we're looking for discussion about any of those line items. Total amount here is $16,466.60. Any questions, concerns, any updates, anything you want to?
I'll just add, I may have alluded to it earlier, but you see it's a sizable retainer amount for 88. Dean, who we certainly are very happy with, he does a tremendous job. But that retainer was for a higher level of service that was required before this administration came in, frankly. We don't have the same needs, and obviously we're looking to reduce expenses. Dean was very open to that. We went item by item as to what's expected, what's included in that retainer. He's going to come back with a new proposal, probably for at most half of that amount. And I appreciate him working with us on that. So you'll see that next month.
Okay, thank you. Legal counsels, we have not only your direct Phil Kevin, which I don't need you to opine upon, but we also have legal counsel from Albany or lobbying counsel, Brown and Whiteshop. Any issues, any concerns? No? Okay,
I have none.
all right. Any questions, concerns from the board members? Any eliminations or questions about any line items? With that, entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, Bill.
Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowdy,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Vincent Odock,
Yes.
Riskevich.
Yes.
5 yeas, motion passes.
All right, presentation page 45, all other.
All other, so these are things that don't fit those other two categories. Total is $8,096.39. The first is just the credit card. Again, it's mostly our monthly or periodic fees for online services. And then basically rest there is more consumable type of items. And then also, which you have interest in, that's the late payments we pay for the on the credit card. Harris Beach, that's for parish reporting that they did prior to us submitting the parish report. Work there. Endeavor Municipal Development, we had a $3,000 contract was written with them for grant writing for this $1.5 million EDA grant application. 1,500 was paid at the start,
One right now.
and the remaining 1,500 was due at the submission of the application. Because of the activities going on here, that award or that application, it was never submitted. It is in place to be submitted, but the vendor would like payment for the balance, fearing that the work has been done. That's the $1,500. And regarding the Strategic Economic Consortium, Bill was going to fill you in on that.
Yeah, that's part of our agreement with them under the equipment arrangement we have. We're utilizing their equipment available to our accelerator clients. So it's their management of that program, applying for grants that help feed that program, et cetera. That's the $35,000 a year, and that's their the portion that they're billing right now.
I would ask for an attorney-client session on that prior to any approval for TSEC.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, you don't, I mean, respectfully, you don't need to do it now, but I would just ask you not to address that bill until we have an attorney-client session.
Can you speak about this EDA grant?
So the
I know
EDA
you probably
grant,
did it before, but I'm drawing a blank on it.
no, that's okay. So the EDA grant was, so EDA, it's a regional council, not the Mid-Hudson Regional Council through Empire State Development, but the regional council, Pat Pomeroy is our local contact there as well. It was a grant the accelerator was applying for with a couple partners in that, including Hudson Incubator, who I've met with to try and get a handle on what they're doing. The idea was to expand accelerator programs. It had to be regional is what the grant required. So the IDA at that time elected to pursue programs in Ulster in order to make it regional, so second county. So they were looking to do that as well. It was a matching grant, so the IDA would have to put in $1.5 million. The concept was that it would be matched by the EDA grant. The concept was that the IDA was already paying a great deal of money towards these programs, so they thought that the match would be easy to do. So it's sitting on hold. This grant writer, Victor Cornelius, I knew worked with Nancy Proyak, who really took the lead on that project. It seemed that Nancy was the one really, riding herd on that for the most part. So the grant is completed and sitting, waiting to see what happens with the IDA, whether or not it's something that we want to pursue or not.
It's sitting with us or it's been submitted?
It is, EDA is holding it. It has not been submitted formally.
Has others contributed their fair share? Do you know?
Dollar-wise or?
Yeah, dollar-wise.
Not that I know of to the expense of the grant writing, not that I know of. I don't know
Do you know if this expense was going to be solely borne or was approved to be solely borne by the IDA Orange County IDA, or was it supposed to be shared as part of this regional? Do you know that detail
My
yet?
understanding is that it is all a grant just of and by us and would not, no one else would be contributing to that. Making
Even though they would benefit?
Do you know if that to be different, Ed? That's my understanding.
As far as
It's our grant, we're gonna be paying. Would another county be contributing anything toward this, for example?
toward the match or towards the payment of,
Towards the match, is that what you meant?
Towards the payment of
Oh,
the
the-
writing and for the match? Anybody?
the match, I think was strictly just the, we call it now.
The Orange County IDA.
Orange County IDA.
That's my understanding.
I don't know of any contract that was written outside that. And as far as the match, when I look at the numbers, I believe it was just mostly, it wasn't that, I'm not sure if it identified the organizations that had it, they just said, here's a match, and say, which organization would have it. It identified key entities, and there was also some private companies that were identified as being that were providing an additional not financing, but investment, but it didn't seem to be tied to the grant itself.
Let me ask it a different way. Is this something that we contracted with as the previous board did? Meaning, did the previous board say we're gonna pay you $3,000, $1,500 upfront, $1,500 at completion? And they're expecting this, or is this something new that we're asking this board to approve?
It was approved.
The contract was signed by Lori. I don't recall whether, and that was back in October, with the terms there.
Did it come in front of the board, and did the board approve it?
We did see.
I don't recall that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hold on this, because I wanna know if the previous board approved this or not. Because if it doesn't, then I need that to be presented to the board for approval.
Right.
Not just pay this bill because we asked you to pay for it. I'd like to know the details on this one, if the previous board approved a $3,000 contract to do business with other entities who aren't gonna share in it, and it's gonna benefit areas outside of Orange County. That's the specifics that I wanna know, that we're getting into. And whether, if the other board approved it, then we have a bill to pay, possibly.
Right.
I don't wanna, but I also wanna know the details of what we're trying to approve. I hope everyone would agree with me on that, that without having that detail, I don't know what we're asking here. If they did a product, they need to get paid, but I wanna understand what is this board looking to do? Just process the payment, or are we looking to approve it if it wasn't approved by the previous board? Because at a $3,000 level, I would hope that it was brought to the board for approval. I hope that it wasn't just a staff determination for a $3,000 sole source expenditure. That's what I'm hoping.
Understood.
So I just need a little more detail. If you could ask them to be patient.
Absolutely.
We're gonna hold off on the Strategic Economic Consortium payment. So it'll be the $8,096.39 minus the $5,472.56 and the $1,500.
So it's to pay the credit card and pay Harris Beach.
Yes. Questions, concerns? In a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Make that motion minus the 1,500 and the, yeah,
Agreed, yep.
okay. I'll second that. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Michael Torelli,
Yes.
John Dowdett,
Yes.
Leslie Pieri,
Yes.
Odoc. Dr. Odoc?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. Paul Ruskevich?
Yes.
5 yeas, motion passes. I have one, and I think I should have suggested this earlier, but we had a credit card statement that came in just yesterday with two items, and the bill is due July 6th, which would be, of course, before our July meeting. There's two, and I should have introduced it, I think, with the monthly, the recurring. But one is for Constant Contact, an email e-blast service. It is for past services provided from July of last year through June 9th of this year. It is especially used again for COVID relief and a lot of the, that's 1,047. And then trash and recycle removal, Morangi for Middletown, for the Middletown pod, $96.45. So I would ask that we have authorization to pay these as well, so we don't incur a late fee with a credit card.
Okay. Any questions, concerns?
Those are both on a credit card?
Correct.
Marangi, we.
Correct.
No, one probably is a check.
Which one is the check?
The check should be the, trash removal.
Oh, Morangi is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we didn't put that on a credit card.
No, we generally don't, we don't, we don't try to do that, pay our bills.
So Constant Contact was the one that,
Yeah.
it's for services that were already rendered.
Correct.
Are we continuing to move forward with them with anything? Is this gonna be another,
We could use them, and I thought it was paying in advance when it was first brought to me, and I definitely was concerned with that because we're not doing things at the same level. We don't need that level of service when it comes to that. So this is all that we're committed for, and if we need this service going forward, it would be a much lower rate.
And that was paid by the credit card?
Yes, that's right. That's my
Yeah,
understanding.
right.
This one is
Yeah,
right.
right, it's an
Yeah,
online, service.
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay.
additional questions, concerns? Board?
Yeah.
Everybody okay with it?
Pay those.
All right, motion?
I'll make a motion to pay, so we're gonna pay Constant Contact and we'll hold off on Marangi, or we're gonna pay Marangi also?
I think we're looking to pay
Yeah,
them.
we're gonna
Pay both?
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
yes.
I make a motion to pay both, I agree.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I'll second.
No
Which
problem.
one?
Paul did it first.
We did.
All right.
Leslie's slow on
Leslie's
the
got a
draw.
delay. It's unfortunate. She's a
She
technology.
has a time delay.
I'll be quiet next time.
Any more discussion? No, if not, call?
Michael Torelli.
Yes.
John Dowded.
Yes.
Leslie Pieri.
Yes.
Vincent Odock.
Yes.
Oliver Skevich.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Any, next item is resolutions. Do we need to look at any of that? Any distinct resolutions that we have to do? I mean, I think we did them on the board level or on the project level. We did it on the research level. We did it on the policy level.
We did. Is Russ with us still?
Yes, he is.
See, that's him, HB.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I turned the video off. I must admit, I left my wallet in an Uber about an hour ago, so
Way to go.
I've been stuck in Boston for 3 days. What was supposed to be a one-day trip at my son's college orientation. I don't mean to bore you with my drama, but I left my wallet in an Uber, so I'm a little panicked about that, but supposedly it's coming.
Good luck with that.
So, Russ, do we need to, everyone has a copy of the resolutions that apply to the items that we've gone through on the agenda. Do you need us to read each of these?
That's to the board's discretion, but that is not necessary. They can be moved on individually.
And I'll be, by the way, just to follow up for these, how we do process these, I'll be adding who the motion was given by in a second. And then it does need to be signed by either our secretary or our assistant secretary, Leslie Pieri or Vincent Odock, respectfully. Obviously, they're both remote, so I'll be following up with them to get either of them to get signatures on these. And then we follow.
So is there a way in the future where we can do these resolutions as we're talking or after we vote on the projects? Or is it something that we have to do separately?
Wait, I'm sorry, aren't these the CRH resolutions?
Yeah.
Then you really already did it, because that's why I made that point of saying they're in the form that you were presented with.
Yeah.
So I think you've essentially passed. I don't think you've.
Yeah, I
essentially-
agree with Lang. Those resolutions have been moved and adopted.
Okay.
The way the old board did it was, when the matter came up before you, at the very end, I usually read the resolution, motion second, vote, and that was it. And then you were done with the whole, the resolution, you had to bring it back at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you. All right,
Yeah, there's no
so
reason to do it twice.
it's once-
Can I ask you to be removed from the agenda? Does it even need to be on the agenda as resolutions? I've seen it in the past, so I wasn't sure.
I think you can remove it as long as we're gonna do the resolutions at the time of talking about the project. I think that's the best way and the most time efficient, or, yeah.
Agreed.
Great, thank you.
I will say, if there's a resolution that's not project related that you want to talk about, that you add it as an agenda item in new and unfinished business.
I see.
Projects come first, and then our stuff comes second. Any other old or new, any new or unfinished business before we potentially go into executive session? All right, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session to talk about the distinct employment of staff, as well as legal advice on on investigations and on conflicts.
So this is a motion under Public Officers Law, Article 7, for exemptions, if any other matter made confidential by state and local law, talk to an attorney, which is 108, and also section 105, employment.
Yes. So with that, in the executive session, I'd like to have obviously all board members. I'd like to have county council. I'd like to have Bill Fioravante, at least through a portion of it. I'd like to also have, Kevin Dowd in it as well. Everyone else, I don't think we're going to need. If we can try to figure out that technology-wise and staff-wise. So Ed, I'm going to ask you to remove yourself from the room. And I'm going to ask whoever else is that is online. I don't think, there's nothing about projects, so I don't think we need Russ.
You have one in the funding corporation, Mike.
Yep.
You have the Citibank amendments.
Yep, we have to open up that meeting after we're done with the executive
Right.
session. Yep.
Mr.
Thank you.
Slozall,
So Bill, just shoot me a text when you want me to come back on for the funding corp. If you decide you want me to explain anything, or give me a call and I'll be happy to jump back on.
You want to do the funding corp, you want to recess this meeting, the IDA meeting, and then jump right into the funding corporation?
Technology-wise, that might be the easiest, right?
and then Ed could give the financial reporting. He'd at home, to be honest, also.
Okay, so once again, I'll correct myself. I hate doing this. This is like, I think the third time in a row I've messed this one up.
Nobody's perfect.
And you can strive to be though. So in this instance, we'll recess. I'll ask a motion to temporarily recess the IDA portion of the meeting and open up the funding corporation portion of the meeting. Make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. In favor? Bill? Paul?
Mike Torelli?
Yes.
Yes.
John, sorry.
John Dowd? Leslie Pierre?
Yes.
Noda?
Yes.
Overskevich?
Yes.
5 years.
Okay. We'll open up the Orange County IDA or come out of recess for that. And I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'll second that. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
I'm trying to help Bill throughout this. Okay.
And
So
those
all
are
five of us decided to go into executive session.
for all the reasons I previously stated.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, and welcome back to the Orange County IDA monthly board meeting. Today is June 15th, 2021. We just came out of executive session. There are no additional items on the agenda or anything to discuss. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's everybody, Bill.
All right.
See everybody at, if you can, at the next committee meeting, which is next Tuesday, if you can, and we'll concentrate on some stuff. Agenda to follow.
And Leslie, can I ask, when are you back in town, if you don't mind me asking?
Friday.
Okay, so I may wait till then and coordinate with you to get these resolutions signed by you as secretary, okay?
Absolutely. Yep.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
all.
council.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.